Hey y'all, it's Nancy the Handy Scandy. Welcome back for another crafty venture. Boy, have we got a lot to talk about today. So I am making these 4 gorgeous, dark academia inspired with my elegant grungy elegant aesthetic. And these are the products that I'm using, at least most of the products that I'm using. I might show some other things, but everything will be linked and listed downstairs. I will be starting out with those Harlequin stencil printed card panels. Now they are not stenciled because the stenciling was on other projects, but the paste that was left on the stencil, I made those beautiful prints, and that is what we're using to cut out these tags. Now you can see those are A2 sized panels, and the tags, the mini slim tag dies that Whimsy has, are not A2 sized. However, I've shown how to remedy that in the past, and I like to put a coordinating color at the top, and you'll see me do that here in just a second. I'm cutting all 4 panels, and then I go through and I cut 4 panels of just the top, and that top is going to start to bring us some of the fun that we're going for. So all 4 get a different type of embossing folder, and you can see how gorgeous that is. We've got the spider web, and you can kind of see how that's going to look. Of course, you saw in the beginning, I don't stop at this. If you wanted to make something like this, by all means, you stop where you are comfortable. You don't have to go all out like I do. That's just kind of what I do. But you do you, please, by all means. This is just hopefully inspiration. Maybe if you can, glean a thing or two, or learn a different concept or a different way to do something you've been doing in the past. Yeah, that's what this is about. You do not have to try to go all out like I do, especially if you are not an all-out person. But you can see that I have embossed all 4 of these, and they all have a different pattern on them. And then I've tapped each one of them down into the Versamark pad to get them all nice and sticky. And then I'm using clear embossing powder because I want them to not only have the pattern of the embossing folder, but I want them to be glossy because the tags themselves are matte. So I wanted this contrast. And I think they all just turn out so cool. They almost look plasticized, to be honest. And here you can see them all. Don't they look kind of plasticized? Mm-hmm. It's amazing. And that is just cardstock, dry embossed and heat embossed. And they look so, so good. And so I take all 4 of my panels and I bring in that black soot and just go around the edges, just to kind of start to bring in some of that grunge, that darkness that I love so much. And then of course, if there's ink left over, chances are I'm going to be using it in some way. And so I thought I would just go ahead and dab it up onto these panels just to kind of add some more of that grunge. And then I'm just using some white glue to adhere the tops to the bottoms, and I just think it looks so cool. Now I don't show this. In fact, I have to say now I've lost quite a bit of the footage, probably a good hour's worth of footage, but I think we're able to recover in the end, and I'm able to walk you through the last few steps. But what I started to say was I have put white panels on the back of each of these to make them nice and clean. Now, these dies that I'm using are Whimsy's, I want to say they're Wild Weeds, the Wild Weeds die set, and I am cutting them out of metal panel. These metal panels are from Tonic Studio, and I actually bought them by mistake several years ago. I thought I was getting glossy gold cardstock, and I was very wrong. Now, the thing you have to keep in mind with this, when using a metal sheet like this, is they have a memory, or it has a memory. In other words, if you get a kink in it, that kink is going to stay. You're not going to get that kink out. If you get a bend or a fold or a wrinkle, it's staying. But I was able to glue them all down. I had to use tweezers and blocks and things to hold them down, but I think they look great. And then of course that gorgeous gold splatter, can't live without it, especially on something like this. It just adds to both the grunge and the elegance. So good, so good. Now these frames are new to Whimsy. Today is the 10th. I'm filming this on the 10th. That will be released on the 11th. So on the 10th there was a new release. A lot of these products that I'm using in this video were just released on the 1st. So you don't have to go too far back to find them, and they are absolutely amazing. Every release is amazing in its own way, but these last couple of releases are amazing in my way. I completely love this aesthetic. So now we've got to bring in some more of that heat embossing, because that's very much one of the elements in my grungy elegant aesthetic. And so I just keep my Versamark pad out. Look at that. I keep the Versamark pad out. I keep a pile of embossing powder, and I just grunge or ink up the edges, and I just take the ink pad and go just over the top of those embossed images just to kind of highlight them, and then I dip it down in that pile of powder either while it's wet with the Versamark or while the paint or the embossing powder itself is still hot and wet, because if you tap it down while it's still hot, it's going to hold on to the dry powder, and then you just heat it up. And I add lots of layers of grungy elegant embossing powder in that very way. Now some people aren't comfortable with that, so if you want to dab in your back onto your Versamark pad or your embossing ink pad, you go right ahead and do that. I mean, there's no right or wrong. There's, like I've said before, there's no police in this, so you do what you want. Mm-hmm. Now, part of the footage that I lost was, you can see the vintage script background stamp up there in the top. I stamped it down with the Versamark, and I also used one of the new exquisite lace stamps, and just added some more interest and depth and dimension and pattern and all of that to the background. So you can see along the edges, they look kind of more grungy, but up close you can tell that it is the lace stamp, and you can see the words as well, and it just adds so much more interest to those backgrounds. But you can see that the Harlequin is still very prominent in the background. We haven't lost that, and we also haven't lost the embossed, the dry embossed nor the heat embossed elements at the top. Everything is just playing nicely together. It's all coming together, and we're getting some more contrast with this white on black with these, oh, these cameo skulls are just beautiful inside the cameo frames. Absolutely gorgeous. Now with this particular die set, there's an alive man and woman cameo, and then there's a skeleton man and woman cameo. Now here is, shortly after this is where I lost the footage. So these are two of the images from, oh, Exquisite Beauty. I just want to make sure I'm giving you guys the right name. But I stamped them and I heat embossed them with white embossing powder. Only the white embossing powder wasn't fine detail, and so I lost a lot of the detail. I was going to go back and redo these, but at this point I already had 3 hours into these tags, and I just allowed myself to accept what I had done and give myself grace. But these are the finished cards or tags, and I still think they're beautiful. They didn't turn out the way I had in my head, but they are gorgeous. You can see that I used the frames. I kind of layered a white one over a black one in the background behind both the skull and the death moth, and they're beautiful. So we have the frames on all 4 tags. The only thing that's different on all 4 tags is the images themselves. So we've got the cameos, and then we've got the death moth and the skull. So a little bit different. But man, I'm in love with these. Y'all let me know what you think. I know this aesthetic isn't for everybody, but just let me know your thoughts downstairs. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Like, what is your style? What is your Halloween aesthetic? Or do you celebrate Halloween? What are your thoughts on that? I'm open to any kind of conversation y'all want to have. But in the meantime, I'm going to continue enjoying my tags. I had so much fun making these, guys. Thank you for spending some time with me and allowing me to share my creativity with you. And I thank Whimsy Stamps for allowing me to be a part of their program. So guys, until next time, go ahead and like, subscribe, definitely comment. Like I've said, I want to talk to you about whatever you want to talk about downstairs in the comments. And until next time, this has been Nancy, the Handy Scandy. Mwah! And I'm out.